Let's go, girl.
Just tell me that I can and I'll show you things that you couldn't believe.
Let's go! It's Women Talking Football. WTF, not to be confused with WFT. We are the women, a pair of producers for Dave Campbell's, actually a trio of producers, rather, for Dave Campbell's Texas Football and Dave Campbell's Texan Live. I'm the executive producer, Ashley Pickle. Joining us in a little bit will be our normal co-host, Miss Mallory Hartley, associate producer. In there in the control room, she's got a camera on her. VNA, welcome in.
Hello, hello, hello.
It is episode 74 of Women Talking Football, and boy, do we have a big show for you today. Let's go bottom to top here. In the back half of the show, we will be going through the Beast Texas region, East Texas and Piney Woods, taking you through all the ranked team, the stonks, the players to watch, all of that good stuff that you're used to here on WTF. In the middle part of the show, we will be revealing our Week 3 spotlight games for Dave Campbell's Texas Football. Tonight, our Friday night programming, we have a banger slate for Week 3. But to start it off, we will waste no time. You will notice a different lady sitting here in the studio. That is Miss Amy Goodson, sports dietitian for the Sports Nutrition Game Plan. Miss Amy, how are you?
I am doing great. Thank you so much for having me.
Of course, we're excited to have you. So obviously, sports dietitian, you are the lady with the plan when it comes to high school athletes and how they need to balance their nutrition, because we talk a lot of football on this show. They're high school boys. That is difficult to get into their mind that maybe the junk food isn't the best option.
Yes.
We'll start off with that. Obviously, they're called student athletes for a reason. They've got to balance school. They have to balance nutrition, the workouts, the practices, the games, everything like that. What's your biggest tip when it comes to balancing nutrition as much as they're balancing schoolwork, practice, all the rest of it?
Have to have a game plan. So just like you have a game plan in football, right? You don't just go into a game not prepared, not looking at what the other team's doing, not having your plays in place. Same thing with nutrition. You've got to have a game plan for what your week looks like. I have worked Pee Wee to Pro in football and in sports nutrition, and the younger athletes really have some of the bigger challenges because, to your point, they have to go to school. They might have tutoring. They might have other extracurricular activities, plus practice, plus lifting, all the different things. And so what I really encourage young athletes to do in that high school space is to say, okay, let's look at your week. And let's see, like, what's the scoop? Does practice, when are you practicing? When are you going to be lifting? What does that look like? And how can we strategize and plan a game plan for fueling? So more of a fueling plan of a game plan, and looking at, okay, you're going to be gone all day for 12 hours? Mm-hmm. We're going to need some snacks, because oftentimes one of the biggest challenges that I see with these younger athletes is they're under-fueled, and they'll tell me, I feel fine. And I'm like, I'm just arguing you might feel better.
Yes.
And really trying to dial in on creating a plan. And I am not one that likes to cook, so you don't really have to be in the kitchen hours, but it's like having those snacks, having those go-to items so that we can keep these athletes well-fueled, well-hydrated, so that they have the energy that they need, whether they're on the field, in the weight room, or in the classroom, which is also key.
I want to get to hydration in a minute here. That is another key factor in all of this. I want to go back to a second ago when you were talking about snacks being a huge portion of this. Can you give any parent watching, any student watching, some of an idea of kind of what do those snacks look like that you would recommend, and how often? What's the frequency that you're looking to digest those?
So I am a big believer that snacks are the glue that holds the whole sports nutrition puzzle together. It's not enough for an athlete to eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner. They've got to get the in-between fueling. And so the goal is really to have a carbohydrate and a protein. Okay. When you put those two things together, it helps stabilize your blood sugar, and that's important because that is going to stabilize your energy levels. And so if your blood sugar is all over the place, your energy is often all over the place, which is where we see athletes and parents high energy, low energy, high energy, low. So really dialing in on having these nutrient-rich snacks that are going to provide energy. So carb protein, that could be granola bar, beef jerky. That could be banana, one of the little peanut butter to-go cups. Bag of trail mix that might have nuts, dried fruit, granola in them. Things like that they can just throw in their bag. And so it doesn't matter if it has to be hot or cold, because let's face it, most male athletes during the day, we do not need to send them to school with a refrigerated snack that still needs to be cold at 3 p.m. Like, bad plan. So thinking through what are those things that it's okay if it gets hot, it's okay if it maybe got stepped on in their bag. So thinking through, like I said, the beef jerky, the granola bars, protein bars. I am a lover of the energy bite that parents can make at home. Oats, honey, peanut butter, protein powder, sprinkle in your favorites. Great balanced snack, going to give them energy to help fuel their day. Simple, easy to eat, and on the go.
I can promise you one thing. When I was a student athlete, my mom never had to twist my arm to eat beef jerky. I would like to self-proclaim the biggest beef jerky fan on the entire planet.
I travel all the time, and that is forever in my bag. I've been stranded on a lot of tarmacs with beef jerky and nuts, and I'm like, thanks.
And as long as you have that, then we're good. I'm chilling.
And for male athletes, like, it's good protein, and it's salty, which I know in the world of normal nutrition, people go salt, but in the sports nutrition world, we're all about salt. And so that makes it a really good solution for protein, 10 essential nutrients, plus getting that sodium in.
Well, and salt, you say that, and it's like, how do you balance that out? Hydration being a huge key factor there. I know that you hear coaches all the time, drink water. You have to drink water. I think there's a lot of other forms of hydration that you can get too. What are some of your, what challenges do you notice with maybe teenagers specifically not staying hydrated enough, and what tips would you have for them to make sure that those levels are being where they need to? We don't want cramps.
Exactly. So first, let's start with just a 2% dehydration level in the body can equate to about a 10% decrease in performance.
Wow.
As dehydration gets worse, performance typically declines. Typically, almost more than any other sport, football sweats a lot. They got a lot of gear on, and they're usually big dudes moving a lot.
We're in Texas.
It's hot. And so that's a huge challenge. And so one of my things when I talk to athletes is I'm like, hydration is something you can control, at least going into those practices, into those games. So we want athletes to think about, how can I monitor my hydration? So first things first, I always tell them, look at the color of your urine. It's an old school way to figure out your hydration, but it costs nothing. It takes no one's help, and you can do it any time of the day. Really aiming for that pale yellow to clear. Congratulations, you're probably hydrated. Apple juice and darker, no good. You need to drink something. So drinking consistently throughout the day. To your point, it can be water, it can be sports drink, it can be milk, chocolate milk, smoothie, protein shake. All of these things are going to be contributing to overall hydration. So for most athletes, like general hydration, I'd say take your weight, divide it in half, and drink that many ounces. So if you weigh 200 pounds, let's go easy math.
Right.
100 ounces, and then add about 5 to 10 ounces of fluid every 20 minutes, or a bottle an hour. If it's if it's a short workout, you can probably get away with water. This time of year, it's hot. So typically I'm going to be recommend either adding electrolytes to that water, the sodium, potassium, just to help with obviously preventing cramping, helping the athlete drink more. But sports drinks are also a great solution because they also have carbohydrate, and carbohydrate is going to be that quick fuel that's going to help them get through that workout, through that game. So again, like a bottle-ish an hour. And then on the reverse side, looking at how dehydrated am I after a game, after a practice. And so typically most, even high school athletes football players will weigh themselves pre-post. So 16 to 20 ounces per pound lost. So if you lost 3 pounds, you probably need 3 bottles of fluid. So easy way to kind of think about it. Hydration is essential, and it can cause a lot of problems if you're dehydrated. Fairly easy thing to stay on top of if you'll stay on top of it.
We're talking with Amy Goodson, sports dietitian for the Sports Nutrition Game Plan. Amy, I have a couple more questions before we let you go here. First of which being, there's just a plethora of information when it comes to this kind of stuff out there. Some very good, some not as good. As a parent, I am not one yet, but I can only imagine when you're trying to do the best thing for your child that you're taking in as much as you can. What are your tips for parents that are trying to preach to the choir that, hey, your nutrition is important, not just for high school athletes, but for the rest of your life, honestly. Where would you suggest they go? How do you kind of weed out what information might not be the best?
Yeah, I always like to say people are well informed with misinformation.
Yes.
And so looking at what the average celebrity or athlete is doing, probably not the best. So I am always going to tell parents, look to a nutrition expert when it comes to nutrition. So a sports dietitian, a registered dietitian. We go to a lot of school.
Yes.
And a lot of stuff to become and take a board exam to become a registered dietitian, because you don't think about it, but you have athletes that have diabetes. You have athletes that have other health issues that we need to be really focusing in on. So looking for a sports dietitian is going to be key. So RD or registered dietitian after someone's name. A lot of us have tons of resources. Like I have a free podcast, the Sports Nutrition Playbook. We have a YouTube channel. We have free, Instagram. So we're trying to put out good information. And, when it comes to parents, there's a lot of things that make people go, ooh, that looks so appealing. Ooh, should we try that? It's really about the basics.
Right.
Your kids need to be eating consistently, starting with breakfast over the course of the day. We talked about snacks. Fuel early, fuel often, eating consistently, hydrating. It's the basics done well that can really add up to success. If you've ever heard of the compound effect, small things done consistently over and over and over again can add up. The reverse is true as well. Small bad things done consistently can lead to bad habits, and that sets athletes up to not have enough energy, be underfueled, which potentially is going to contribute to decreased performance, decreased recovery, which no parent wants for their kid.
Absolutely. Sometimes the classics hit. You got to play the classic.
I'm like, it's the basics that everyone's missing out on. If you would stick to the basics, you'd be surprised how well they work. Basics are often boring to people, but they work.
Absolutely. Before we let you go, you mentioned it a little bit. You've got the podcast. Obviously, there's a sports nutrition game plan, the playbook, all that kind of stuff. Go ahead and one more time, we want to give you the opportunity to tell all the viewers where they can find very trusted information on the basics and everything that you have to offer.
Yeah, so the sports nutrition game plan is actually a free high school sports nutrition program that I created in combination with the Texas Beef Council. So this is a program that schools can use. They simply go to sportsnutritiongameplan.com and they can sign up for the program. It's got videos, fact sheets, meal plans, anything that a high school would need to really help educate their kids. It's a free resource. Use free resources. And then my business, the Sports Nutrition Playbook, we do one-on-one counseling, which really excited. We've just started taking insurance for sports nutrition services.
Congratulations. That's
94% of people can see a registered dietitian for free or a very reduced cost.
Wow.
Unbelievable. So the sportsnutritionplaybook.com, and you can fill out our insurance verification form, but it's a way, one of my big goals as a dietitian is to expand access to sports nutrition to a lot of the athletes that are training just as hard, yet don't have access. So this is a phenomenal way to do that. And so going to our website, looking at that, if your athlete needs one-on-one counseling for, they have questions about supplements, questions about weight gain, questions about performance, that's the key. And then yes, the Sports Nutrition Playbook is my business. We have a podcast, we have a YouTube channel, we have an Instagram account. You can find it all under that, trying to put out good information to help educate athletes and parents so that they're able to help keep their kids well fueled. I always like to say that nutrition does not fix everything, but it can help a lot of things. And when we talk about it from a performance and recovery standpoint, it's the cheat code, and most high school athletes aren't doing it.
Well, I think I'm going to check out the sports nutrition playbook for my own personal use as a washed up athlete. I think that it can help everyone.
Yeah, and parents, we see more than just athletes. Parents will be like, do you see normal people?
Exactly.
Like, yes, we see normal people.
It is me. Hi, normal, normal-ish person.
Yeah, right, exactly, yeah. But yeah, we're just trying to expand access, help athletes perform at their best, and at higher levels, college, professional sports, I've worked in all of those, they have access. At some of the younger levels, they don't. So that's our goal, provide sports nutrition access to all athletes.
That is awesome. She is Miss Amy Goodson with the Texas Beef Council, along with the Sports Nutrition Playbook, the Sports Nutrition Game Plan, all laid out for you. We hope that if you would like to, please contact them, get your student athlete prepped and ready to go. But Amy, thank you so much for joining us here today.
Yes,
we
thank
look
you
forward.
for having me.
Absolutely. There she goes, Miss Amy Goodson. So guys, seriously, a lot of incredible offerings there to take advantage of, whether you're a parent, whether you're an athlete. Get your body right and get on the field and ready to go. So this is Women Talking Football. We have a whole slew of Texas high school football to get into, but before we get there, let's hear a word from our sponsors.
Hot days. Call for cold coffee. So grab great tasting community coffee, make your favorite cold beverage, and get your chill on all season long. Family owned since 1919, Community Coffee has spent 5 generations roasting blends right here in the USA. Shop now or find it near you at communitycoffee.com.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Potter, Executive Director of Be Well Texas. Too many people are struggling alone these days, and alcohol and drug deaths are increasing. We started Be Well Texas to offer high-quality, science-based addiction treatment and recovery services anywhere, even at home. We provide compassionate, caring support virtually or in person. In many cases, there is no cost for treatment if you don't have insurance. Really. Welcome to Be Well Texas. We're glad you're here.
Hey DFW residents, get your grocery essentials in minutes, not hours or days, with Wing Drone Delivery. Forget about last-minute trips to the store when you need things like cereal for breakfast before school, medicine for a cold, or snacks for a movie night. Wing's drones get you quick, no-contact delivery in as fast as 15 minutes. Say goodbye to last-minute grocery runs and say hello to more of your valuable time. Sign up today.
Did you know that just a 2% level of dehydration in the body can contribute to an approximate 10% decrease in performance? And guess what? As dehydration gets worse, performance typically declines. That means it's up to you as an athlete to keep your hydration in check. So here are 5 hydration tips to help you stay at the top of your game. First, carry a water bottle with you throughout the day to ensure that you're drinking enough fluid throughout school and all your extracurricular activities. Remember, water is always a great hydrator, but there are other beverages like sports drinks, milk, and even smoothies that count towards your total hydration goal. And there are hydrating foods. Fruits, vegetables, soups, and 100% fruit bars can help you stay hydrated as well. Second, start your workout hydrated. You want to consume at least 16 to 20 ounces of fluid with your pre-workout meal, and then continue sipping on fluids, water or sports drink, until you start your practice, workout, or game. One of the best ways to tell if you're hydrated is to look at the color of your urine. The goal is for it to be pale yellow to clear in color. If it's darker than that, be sure to keep on hydrating. Third, it's important to hydrate throughout your workout. Try to consume 5 to 10 ounces of fluid every 20 minutes during practice. And if you struggle with muscle cramps, add extra electrolytes to your fuel and hydration plan by drinking a sports drink and consuming salty foods. Fourth, post-workout, you need to rehydrate. The goal is to consume 16 ounces of fluid for every pound lost in sweat. But if you don't know how much fluid you lose at practice, start by drinking 16 ounces of fluid and then use your urine color as a guide. If it's dark, keep hydrating until it reaches that pale yellow color. And remember, after a workout, you can drink milk, chocolate milk, and smoothies to help you rehydrate, as well as give your body the carbohydrate and protein it needs to recover. Finally, if you start to experience any signs of dehydration, stop exercising, cool off, drink some fluids, and talk to your athletic trainers. They can help you determine when it's safe for you to go back to practice or a game. And remember, proper hydration is essential for optimal performance. So be sure and drink up.
Welcome back in to episode 74 of WTF, Women Talking Football. We appreciate Miss Amy Goodson, sports dietitian with the Texas Beef Council, and the game plan, the sports nutrition game plan, coming on with us. If you missed it, make sure to go back and watch it. Some incredible sports nutrition tips that I really feel like are not just for athletes. We're also super helpful for, as we said, normal people like ourselves, even though we're far from normal. But sitting back in her normal chair, Miss Mallory Hartley. Welcome in, fella.
Hey, how's it
Lady
going?
fella.
We could talk about Beast, Texas today.
We do get to talk about Beast, Texas.
Beast, Texas.
Excited about that. Before we get to that, though, we would like to reveal the Week 3 spotlight games of Dave Campbell's Texas Football Tonight. It's our Friday night programming, a red zone style show that takes you into all of the best games across the Lone Star State. We're live from 7:30 to around 10 o'clock, as you can watch it for free wherever you're watching this program right now, or on Dave Campbell's Texan Live, our streaming platform here under the Dave Campbell's umbrella. Let's get started and not waste any time here. Thursday night action happening tomorrow night. I almost said tonight. My days are thrown off. But tomorrow night, we'll start off with a cross-regional matchup. It's Austin versus the Bryan College Station area as A&M Consolidated takes on Pflugerville Weiss. This one suddenly got super interesting. Both teams now ranked. It's very different because this is the start of district play for 12-5A Division 1. So critical district games, because the loser could be looking at third place with the way that district shapes out. But the thing that I really, really, really am interested in is A&M Consolidated has faced some high-powered offense. They had an incredible game against Forney. 6A Forney, which traveled all the way down there. They had a very good game against Lake Belton. Still a team I feel like trying to find its identity off of the loss of Micah Hudson. But Pflugerville Weiss being 2-0 right now is shocking, considering their senior starting quarterback went down in the first scrimmage of the season. Well, in steps in freshman. Class of 2028, Jackson Shad has them off to a 2-0 start. He's completed 78% of his passes. He's thrown for 530 yards, 7 touchdowns, 1 interception. This kid, 2028, gets thrust into the first 2 games of the season and is dropping dimes. This will be a big, big, big showing for him if they can even stay close to A&M Consolidated after how well they've played the first couple of weeks.
Well, and that stat line is super impressive. I mean, just from the sheer fact that he's a freshman and he was just kind of thrown into the game. But guys, this is a 6A program. I mean, you're going up against some big-time dudes. And the fact that he's able to do this, getting thrown into a 6A program like this, that's incredible.
An incredible way to start off district.
Pflugerville Weiss is 6A, correct?
I think they dropped down.
Okay.
It's the start of district play, so they're 12-5A Division 1.
An upper class, yes.
They are 5A.
An upper class, not only 6A, but 5A as well.
In the Houston area tomorrow night, this one's a big one. C.E. King taking on Spring Decaney. C.E. King they've been one of those teams that just is consistently almost there. You know, they've had really good years the past couple of seasons. They seem like they're right on the cusp until a big name like an Atascocita, a Katy, Galena Park, North Shore, until they roll around. Interested to see if they can finally get over that hump. And then Spring Decaney, a program looking to make some noise.
Yeah, well, I mean, just looking at their district right now, I think this is C.E. King's district, and it is just a gauntlet. I mean, you've got Atascocita, Galena Park, North Shore, Summer Creek. Like, they just got, they're a great team. Don't get me wrong. They just got stuck into a tough district. And this is a really fun offense to watch. It's a really fun young offense to watch. I'm really excited to see this offense go up against Spring Caney's defense led by Texas commit linebacker Nick Townsend. I think this will be a really fun matchup on a Thursday night. Yeah,
it's funny because C.E. King is always like, we naturally kind of slot them in that third position in that district, and it's like you put them in
any other
district in Houston, and they would be contending for a district championship every single year because they're doing that against 2 of the best programs that we've seen.
Yeah, it'll be a good Thursday night matchup. I'm excited for this one.
Really, really excited. We'll have all of the highlights and reactions from the broadcasters on Dave Campbell's Texas Football Tonight to kick off the show. Then we move into the Friday slate, which just stinking rocks. The aforementioned district bunkmate of C.E. King, the Humble Atascocita Eagles, taking on Austin Westlake in a certified banger of a game.
Cross-regional rivalry right there. That's fun.
This one is fun. It was going to be fun regardless. It is extra fun now considering the result of last week's game that Humble Atascocita played in, taking down Katy.
They whomped Katy.
They had an impressive showing. Carde Mack looks like the guy right now.
I agree.
They're a very, very deep team, but Tori Blaylock, Carde Mack, like we said, They exposed Houston Lamar in week 1. That was a ranked team going into the preseason or going into the season. Then a 41-24 romping of Katy was very, very, very impressive by Craig Stump's ball club. So excited to see what they do again. And we'll talk about this again in a minute, but a potential trap game there as they go to Westlake, high rolling, excited off that Katy win, and then they go to face Tony Salazar's ball club, which seems to be completely in stride. They're excited to see what they end up doing. Their quarterback Reese Weiss has looked very good throughout the first couple of games. Hard to take a lot out of the last result for Austin Westlake. They played San Benito. Shout out San Benito for not backing down and making the trip up from the valley to go play that game. They're playing different levels of football. So hard to put much stock into that, but excited to see what the Shaps do against what we know now is an incredibly good Atascocita team. That defense, Tony Salazar's defense against Carde Mack and that high-flying Atascocita offense that's going to be the phrase that pays.
I think so too. And this Westlake team, this is a team that in the past, and I can say that about them this year, they like to win games in the trenches. And if you look at their resume, like you said, they had an impressive win against San Benito last week and an even more impressive win against Prosper the week before.
Which is also very big in the trenches.
Very big in the trenches. And we talked about that game. We knew that game was going to be won in the trenches. Whoever can take over that win. And I think that this is kind of the same here. I think Austin Westlake filled with a lot of prospects, as well as you can say that the same thing about Atascocita, but a lot of star power in this game. But I think it's definitely going to be who plays better up front.
Yeah, I think where my eyes go in that matchup specifically is how do they keep up with the speed? We've seen them play Prosper, a tough physical team up front. We know they can do that. San Benito wasn't even that was a no contest at that point. Moving on into this game, it's Atascocita is way faster than Prosper in every way. How do they handle that speed? But Westlake, it's a coin toss. Whatever you think. If Atascocita can travel well, then that's great. But Shap Stadium is not an easy place to play in. So
not at all.
Interested to see that. Moving on down now to a lower classification. It's 4A Division 2 versus 4A Division 1. The number 3 ranked Wimberley Texans in 4A Division 2 taking on the 8th ranked Austin LBJ Jaguars in 4A Division 1. And remember, they always opt to play up there. But Wimberley is a team that if you're not paying attention to, you need to. Doug Warren, an unbelievably underrated coach. I think the Texans are cooking with Crisco right now. Cody Stover, their 3-year starter at quarterback, has been the guy year in and year out. You remember 2 years ago in the state championship game, he had a hand in every single yard that was marked down on the offensive side of the ball. He has looked just incredibly impressive with a big win shutting out Canyon Lake, and then a very good win 35-9 over Fredericksburg last week. So this will be a big test for them as Joe Rawls in his second year there with the Jaguars. We're interested to see what they do. They had a huge win over San Antonio Sam Houston, and then an unfamiliar week 2 bye. So we don't really have an incredibly accurate pulse on what this LBJ team is. We know that they're solid on defense. We know that they always have skill players. How well does that match up? Because we just haven't seen them in a competition that's in their weight class.
Right. I can tell you that I bet you Austin LBJ is back in 4A Division 1, because if you remember, they won they played in the 4A Division 1 state championship game a couple years ago.
In 2019,
Stephenville against
2021.
2021 or 2022, I can't remember which. Against Stephenville, 4A Division 1. It must have been 2021 because 2022 was a realignment year.
Correct.
They had they went up to 5A Division 2, and it was just a tougher ball game at that point. They were going up against all those Austin schools around there. Being back in 4A Division 1, I think they're kind of feeling their groove a little bit more, and I think that they're going to be a really, really good ball club this year.
Yeah, excited to see what they end up doing there. So that is that one. Moving on to the next one, we go up to some of the big boys in the DFW, the Cedar Hill Longhorns taking on the Red Oak Hawks in what I think is just an interesting game, literally because I feel like this is one of the most evenly matched matchups that we have seen so far this year. I feel like these are two teams that are not going to win their district, but they are teams that if they get into stride at the right time of the year, you cannot count them out. I think that's the biggest thing is here's a pretty evenly matched matchup. Who's going to pull through? I think that Red Oak has started off this season 0-2. A disappointment for anyone that is out there. They've got their senior wide receiver who is outstanding in Taz Williams. He has been the heartbeat of this team for a couple of years now. Starting off with a new quarterback, that's where all eyes are going to be. Can he step up and get Taz Williams the ball more? Because Taz Williams has the opportunity to take over a game at any point in time. But this is also a Cedar Hill defense that we expect some pretty good things from. So just very even on both sides of the ball.
I was going to say, if you like star power and you like big-time FBS prospects, your eyes are going to go to this game because there's going to be a lot of that on both sides here. I'm still trying to decide what Red Oak is.
Yeah.
Because they have dudes everywhere.
They just need someone who can get them the ball.
It's just a matter of learning how to work together too, I think. They played really well, I think, against Colleyville Heritage week 1. And then they go and play Arlington Seguin, which is a good ball club, but they get whomped by them. So I think this week will be a really good test. And even for Cedar Hill, too, this will be a really good test because you like you said earlier, these two teams are very evenly matched. And I think it'll be a good game regardless. But it'll be a big test for both these teams.
Yeah, Billy Middleton being able to step up in that quarterback spot could be the difference in this game for me. Moving on now to one of the tastiest matchups across the state, hands down, the 6A matchup between Denton Geyer and North Crowley. North Crowley obviously coming off what many are considering the biggest win since they won state championship in 2003, and that was, of course, taking down the two-time reigning state champions in DeSoto. That game was not a fluke. They outplayed DeSoto, and they came out with the win.
Yes.
Incredibly impressive by Ray Gates Ball Club. That being said, do not let this be a trap game. We saw on Twitter, we'll highlight it on the show on Friday night, Coach Ray Gates put out a hog trap. His Shiner, Texas coming through.
Awesome.
Put out
awesome.
a hog trap with a paper on it with all of the quotes about North Crowley and said, guys, we cannot let this get us because they are going up against a Denton Geyer squad that has every weapon that they need, potentially have questions at quarterback, have big questions at quarterback, to be able to take down a North Crowley team. I think it is a fantastic matchup. I think it's going to be big guys hitting big guys. My biggest question is the consistency at quarterback for Denton Geyer. It's looked good at times. It has looked not good at other times. They've crushed both wins. They got a great win against Aledo. Obviously, Aledo punching up a classification, not throwing a lot of dirt on them, but you never count Aledo out. And then a pretty good win against Arlington Martin last week. They started off slow, though. If they start off slow against North Crowley,
they're going to come out and punch in the mouth. Yeah,
they're gonna get down.
North Crowley is, yeah.
You can come back on Arlington Martin. If you start slow against North Crowley, goodbye, see you later.
I do think that North Crowley is the better team in all phases of the game here. It is just a matter of how do you handle last week's win and how do you put that in the past and not, like you said, and like Ray Gates posted on social media, how do you not let this be a trap game? And I don't think it will be because all matters aside, Denton Geyer is still a ranked 6A team. They are still one of the best teams in the entire state. But I still think that North Crowley is the better ball club here. Let's just see how they handle last week's huge win over DeSoto.
Absolutely. Now, rounding it out with our final two games, we start off with another fun cross-regional matchup. This one, Beast Texas versus DFW, as the number 4 ranked Texarkana Texas High Tigers in District 7 5A Division 2, off to a 2-0 start, take on a Midlothian Heritage Jaguars squad, both in 6 5A Division 2, who has started off 0-2. This, to me, feels like what could be the first real test for Texas High. I understand that they're 2-0 and that Midlothian Heritage is 0-2, but Midlothian Heritage playing Stephenville and Argyle, those losses
Yes.
to me, even though those two teams were punching up classifications, well, at least Stephenville was, seem like a lot better losses maybe than a 37-13 win over Tyler Legacy and then beating Argyle Liberty Christian. I'm not taking anything away from wins. Wins are wins. They're 2-0. The other team's 0-2. I think that Tredarian Ball has been exceptional.
Oh, he's fantastic.
Has been so good for Texas High. Midlothian Heritage their defense is going to have a big test
Yes.
going up against him. But I feel like this is the first time we're getting a real good dose of, okay, here's a team that potentially could be good, has some pedigree in them the past handful of years. How does Texas High play? And if they just go off and they just rattle one off against Midlothian Heritage, I honestly don't know if I glean more from that for Texas High or, maybe Heritage is way
we should
further down
right.
than we thought that they were going to be.
I think so too. And I went to a Midlothian Heritage game last year, and they looked pretty dang good. They lost a couple of really good key guys on defense. One, Stetson Bennett played both ways. He was more of an offensive weapon, I'd say, but he also played both ways. And then Tamarick Johnson, who went to Oklahoma State. Two key guys that they really need to figure out how to replace on that defense. And like you said, Tredarian Ball is going to be on the other side for Texas High on the offense. And that might be a scary matchup, but that's where my eyes are going to go. It's how can this Midlothian Heritage defense, it's trying to reload, handle this insane receiver that Texas High has.
And talk about a really good way to shut us up about Midlothian Heritage and any doubts that we may have. If they go out if they go out there and just stomp Texas High, then you're right back in the conversation. No one bats an eye.
No. But then people start looking at Texas High as like, is their resume really not that impressive? You know? So it kind of goes both ways here. So it's interesting.
It is interesting. Very excited for that one. All right, our last and final game. Of course, it is our weekly Fans Choice Award. If you haven't checked it out, go to texasfootball.com/TexanLive/forms, and every single week you get to vote for the sixth and final spotlight game on Dave Campbell's Texas Football Tonight. And the winner is Spring Westfield versus Galena Park North Shore. What an enticing matchup this is. You've got big prospects. You've got two big names. You've got a team in Spring Westfield that is in their first year under a new head coach, the first time in a long time that Matt Meekins hasn't been at the helm for that program. And then, of course, North Shore. I don't really need to tell you all that much about them. They have looked the part. I think that this is a really, really good matchup for them to prove just how dominant they could be heading into district play.
Yeah, like you said, this is if you like star power, this is a game that your eyes are going to go to. This is big, tough, hard-hitting football. I don't know how Caleb Bailey is going to play. I know that he was not playing up to people's expectations last week against Crowley, so I'm going to be watching to see how he handles a team that I could probably confidently say is better than Crowley.
Yeah, absolutely. So there you go. Spring Westfield and Galena Park North Shore, our sixth and final spotlight game. Again, we have highlights coming in throughout that entire show all night from every single corner of the state, West Texas, East Texas, RGV, San Antonio. I mean, anywhere that you can look, we've got the highlights coming in. So we are excited for you to join us for that 7:30 p.m. on Dave Campbell's Texan Live. It's Dave Campbell's Texas Football Tonight. All right, spotlight games are done, Mallory, which means it is time to dive into one of the deepest regions in the state, whether that is legitimate talent, whether that's per capita, whether that's whatever you want to say. We call it Beast Texas for a reason. And just to put a cap on this real fast, we are combining, they're separate, but combining East Texas and the Piney Woods. Gabe Brooks, if you're listening to this, I know that Carthage is in the Piney Woods and not East Texas. So we understand that they're different. For time's sake, we're going to talk about them all together.
And Tepper and I had a conversation about this before the show. I'm sorry I had to bring up Tepper, but I had to bring him up.
Things that make you go, ugh.
Correct. So I asked him, I was like, what is really that line between East Texas and Piney Woods? Because when you look at the Piney Woods and the teams that are in there, you see Carthage, right? We technically have Carthage in the Piney Woods, but that is one that could go either way. They're in the very tip of Piney Woods. Well, here's how he kind of explained it to me. He said East Texas to him is like the greater Tyler area and those cities surrounding the greater Tyler area. But when you look at Piney Woods, that's more of the greater Lufkin and the Nacogdoches area. So that kind of gives you a little bit more of a perspective on where these teams fall and how we differentiate East Texas and Piney Woods.
I will say that I don't think that there is a more highly debated thing when it comes to regions. We split the state into 21 different regions. I do not think the only other one that I could potentially say is like the West Texas Panhandle South Plains. Like some people would consider that, but that is such a vast difference between those cities. It's a lot easier to draw a line. East Texas is a lot more compact.
Yes.
So it is very highly debated, but we will start off with the East Texas ranked teams.
Starting off in 5A Division II, it's the number 4 Texarkana Texas High Tigers. That's a lot of T's.
That's a lot of T's.
A lot of T's. We've already
live on Dave Campbell's Texan Live.
Correct. We've already talked about him because that game is going to be one of our spotlight games in week 3 of Texas football tonight. But like we said, the offense is rolling right now. They're starting off 2-0. Really hot. Big game against Midlothian Heritage this week. Really excited to see if this is going to be a test for them. Or did you have something else to say about that?
I was going to say down to 4A Division 1 we go.
You just want to switch off like that? We can do that. All right, let's do it.
Switch it up a little bit. How about the number 2 ranked Chapel Hill Bulldogs coming in? This is a team we know all too well. Demetrius Brisbane, Ricky Stewart. They've been right on the cusp every single year since those two were both sophomores, even into their freshman years a little bit. Is this the year that they can finally break the hump? Well, I can tell you one thing. It's going to depend on the number 5th ranked Kilgore Bulldogs and what they're able to do. Let me put this on wax right now. Kilgore is a dangerous team.
They're rolling.
They have looked... Do I want to say this? I think I want to say this. They have looked like one of the most complete teams in the first 2 weeks of the season out of, I think, almost any team that we've seen so far. They've played tough non-district games. They have come out on top, and they have looked really, really clean in almost all 3 phases of the game.
Which is great. I think they had a fantastic team last year. But the Grim Reaper still reaps in Tyler Chapel Hill, the team that has taken them out of the playoffs the past 3 years. They beat them in the regular season last year, which is so great that we usually get that matchup twice. Because
I love it.
It is
live on Dave Campbell's
great
Texan
football.
Live.
It's great football. But that's the thing. That's the Grim Reaper for Kilgore. And it's like, can they finally get over that hump and beat him in the playoffs? Because that's, of course, when it really matters.
And then, not to be forgotten, new to the Dave Campbell's Texas football rankings in 4A Division 1, it is number 10, Longview Pine Tree. You might be thinking, well, how'd they sneak on in there? How about a week 1 win versus the reigning 4A Division 2 state champions in the Gilmer Buckeyes? Longview Pine Tree, they've got something cooking out there. That's not the Longview team that we're used to talking about in the rankings, but keep an eye on Pine Tree. They're in 4A Division 1.
Well, and I was really surprised to see what this team was going to be without Dalen Evans, their star player that went to Texas A&M this year. I was really interested to see if they can kind of keep up that mojo that they started gaining last year, and by golly, it looks like they can.
Yeah, they really can. They've been impressive so far. So there we go. That rounds out 4A Division 1 in East Texas.
Let's go down to 4A Division 2, and no stranger here. It's the number 6 ranked Gilmer Buckeyes, and dude, what are they this year? This is a really tough team.
What were they last year at this point?
Yeah, no kidding.
They were losing.
Correct. Well, they're 0-2 right now.
And then they went off to rattle out a state championship. Correct. This team stresses me out.
Against a really good Belleville team, too, may I remind you. I think a lot of this has to do with their identity in the quarterback situation. Because if you remember back to week 1, Caden Tennyson was named the starter. He goes down, and he gets hurt. Replacing him with Brady McCown. I think Brady McCown is really, really good for this team.
I didn't realize Tennyson got hurt.
I think he got hurt. He's not starting because he was named the starter week 1, but now Brady McCown took over.
Oh, I thought they moved him back into his original position.
Oh, well, okay, that is maybe me just
I thought they moved him over back into wide receiver. But
I thought I
could
saw
have that
something
wrong.
about him getting hurt. So
Okay,
that's
we're
why
gonna figure that out.
Yeah, we'll figure that out. But anyways, Owen McCown takes over at quarterback. I think I think it's one of those things where they're just trying to figure out that situation there, right? But I still think this is a really good ball club. I don't think you should put too much stock in that 0-2 record right now. I think they're just going to try and get things rolling just like they did last year. Come playoff time.
I think the defense looks a lot better right now than it did last year at this point in time. I know that they've lost, but I think that helps some too. So interested to see. But again, we were in this exact same spot, throwing all the amount of dirt on Gilmer at this point last year. So it's like, we get it, Buckeyes fans. We're gonna keep watching,
right? I do want to mention here too. Pleasant Grove was in the top 10 here last week, but then they lost to Paris, and I don't know if you saw how they lost this game. Yeah. The final score was 7-0. A 99-yard interception return for a touchdown for Paris. So they win the game 7-0. Absolutely insane. So they were in the rankings up until last week, but then dropped down after that loss against Paris. But dude, what an insane game.
And it's funny because we always say it too, that Paris is the crazy man in the fight. Like, they walk in and they've got this weird style of offense. They take it so slow. They drain the clock, and it was like, talk about a ball game that that Pleasant Grove is like not used to being in. Usually they're the ones keeping the ball away from everybody else. So it was interesting to see kind of, in the words of the great Michael Scott, how the turntables have turned.
I love it.
Wild start there for Pleasant Grove. Moving on now to 3A Division 1 is a team that we know all too well, and that is the number 1 ranked Malakoff Tigers. The guy is back. Who?
Mike Jones.
There it is. She got it. The young gun got it. But Mike Jones is back. This is the team that we saw claim their first state championship last year, a first state championship in a while, but Coach Jamie Driscoll finally gets it done after a long drought of state championships for him personally, playing in one as a player, coaching in another one, now head coach in one, finally was able to get that done. The Tigers are off and running with a 2-0 start, a 49-0 romping over West Rusk, and then a very good win at Lorena, 34-14, which I still have a lot of questions on Lorena. We talked about them last week. But to go on the road to a team that we've seen play in a state championship the past couple of years, very, very good win. So not too much to say on Malakoff from my end.
No, well, I'll add this to it a little bit too. They're returning linebacker Parker Poteet, who was also the defensive MVP in the state championship game. So not only are they rolling on offense, they got their star guy back and on their defense. And this is a team that pitched 5-6 shutouts last year. Yep. They're not going away.
Our boy Doc Rimberg is graduated and
I'm
gone.
so proud of him.
Our most special boy.
On the first team all Carter Yates team.
Yes, exactly. A very high honor here and high regard at Dave Campbell's Texas football. And then we rounded out with number 9, Texarkana Liberty Ilu. They are off and running to start the season. Excited to see if they are able to keep climbing up the ladder there.
Well, and this is a team that went 0-8 back in 2018, and now they had a 3-5 they went 3-5 last season. So I was like, how are they ranked, right? Well, they're bringing in a new head coach in Brad Willard, a lot of weapons on the offensive side of the ball, and they're returning depth on the defensive line and experience on the offensive line. Gives them a good, really, really good head start to the start of this season. And they're taking over a JV team that was 9-0 last year. So really good inheriting squad by Coach Willard there.
Where was I'm drawing a blank. Where was Willard at beforehand? I thought he was an OC.
Yeah. Live on Women Talking Football, we are doing some research here.
Oh, Mount Vernon head coach. That's right. Because
correct.
we were like, this is the exact type of offensive firepower of a spark that they need, a very, very smart offensive mind. So, yes, that's where it was. I was like, man, it is on the tip of my tongue. I thought he was the Mount Vernon OC beforehand. My apologies to Coach Willard.
Yeah.
And then we rounded out 3 Division 2 with New Diana. So there you go, the East Texas ranked team. Let's do a hard stop. Cut a hard line for anybody that wants to argue with us. Let's dive in to the Piney Woods region.
Starting off in 4A Division 2. This is going to make some people angry because we're considering this Piney Woods. It's the number 1 ranked Carthage Bulldogs. Guys, it's the same script every single year. It's a team that's loaded with talent. It's a team that is led by one of the greatest in Texas high school football history, Coach Scott Surratt, who has more titles than playoff losses, which is just insane to me. And this is a team that's kind of on the hunt for revenge of last season because they were knocked out earlier in the playoffs by Gilmer, who, of course, went on to win for a Division II state title game last year. I don't think they're going away. I think that they're back for revenge. I think Scott Surratt is cooking. I think this team's cooking.
Look,
They
take the week 1 loss to Kilgore, 20-15.
Which are punching up a division.
Punching up a division. We just got done talking about how good of a team this is for Kilgore. Anytime Carthage loses, though, it shakes the ground. They had a week 2 bye, which I believe is good because Jet Surratt, the quarterback, not up to full steam in the Kilgore game. Little bit of some tweaks going on there, but they were saying it's a good thing that they had the week 2 bye. Interested to see what they do. So yeah, the winless Carthage program, ranked number 1 for a Division II. Again,
don't put too much
non-district
stock on
is
that.
weird. Just let it happen. They go on the road against the aforementioned Texarkana Liberty ILU, which was number 9 in 3A Division 1. So interested to see. Not an easy task this time either, but if there's anything about Carthage, you don't wait long for that machine to get rolling. Moving on now to 3A Division 1, you've got number 10 Tatum coming in. Excited to see what they do. 2A Division 1. How about the number 4th ranked Timpson Bears?
I like them. It's a team.
I like them a lot.
It's a team that we were interested in. It was a team.
I like it.
I'm
like it a lot.
Too.
What is
I'm
that
looking at you too. This is a team that
encourages me from behind you.
Can I say my thing about Timpson?
Be my guest. Big Bears fan.
The Bears.
The Bears.
Quick note on them. We kind of had not questions about this team, but I was just curious to see what they were going to do without powerhouse Terry Bussey, right? That is a hard human to replace.
He's the best player Timpson's ever seen.
He's the best player that I've ever seen.
He's one of the best 2A players we've ever seen.
Correct. I'll talk about him in a little bit later, but our guy JJ Gardner. Let me make sure I get his last name right. I feel like I knew another JJ Gardner, but our guy JJ Gardner
and Garter are the two different ones.
That's correct. Yes, has stepped up to the plate. Yes, stepped up to the plate. Timpson looks like a rolling machine, just like they have been. I'm not shocked that they are the number 4 ranked team in. I lost my spot.
2A Division 1.
Division 1. Correct.
Moving on to number 6, Garrison. The Bulldogs off to a 2-0 start, a win at Wascom and a win over ARP. I feel like that's the only way you can say ARP, and I mean it with like the most love in my heart. But Brandon Alvarez's squad is off to a really, really good spot. Antonio Yarbrough has looked great at the running back position. I've been impressed with their defense. There was a lot of young guys coming in at defense. We knew the offense was going to be pretty steady, but how was that defense able to step up? And so far through 2 weeks of the season, they've looked pretty good. So some improvements to make, definitely, but interested to watch their game not only this week against Anahuac, but in a couple of weeks against Lovelady. That'll be the one that I'm very, very, that I kind of have circled on the calendar of what are they going to do.
I agree. Number 9, the Beckville, what is their Bears? They're Bears too, aren't they?
Beckville Bearcats?
Bearcats, something like that.
There's no way to find this out.
Yeah.
Bearcats. Boom. Boom.
You really are good on mascots.
Off the noggin.
Yeah.
That's
you
what
really
happens
are
when you
good.
hang around Greg Tepper too much. You start.
Well, you do 2 shows with
Metamorphosis.
him now. You do 3 shows with him now. You see him on Monday, Thursday, and then a lot, on Fridays. But anyway, the number 9 ranked Beckville Bearcats. The thing with this team is it's never the regular season, right? They always roll through the regular season. It's getting stuck in Region 3 with Timpson, Garrison, Cupper, Honeygrove. It's just
because even
gauntlet.
if you beat those teams once, being able to beat them twice in the playoffs it's so hard.
It's a tough region when it comes to the playoffs, and Beckville's rolling right now. Again, it's never the regular season for them. They have Harmony next week, which doesn't look like the Harmony team that we're used to. They've started 0-2, but really, really impressed with this Beckville team so far. It's just that Region 3 that's scary that they get stuck in the playoffs.
We move down now to 2A Division 2.
Lady!
A team that if you are a longtime viewer of WTF, holds one of the most special places in your heart, and that is number 9, Lady. It is the Love Lady Lions. If you don't know, shame on you.
Correct.
We're not explaining it. But Love Lady, a great win over Elkhart to start the season. And then, how about this? It is a loss. And I know coaches are not fans of moral losses, like a good loss that was a moral win for the team. But losing last week to Timpson, 50-48. You punch up a classification. You go up against a team that, with or without Terry Bussey, is state ranked, competed for a state championship last year, won a state championship last year. A very, very impressive showing. I know that they would have loved nothing more than to close out that game, but a 2-point loss to a just juggernaut in a classification above you. Very, very, very impressed by Will Kirchhoff's squad so far.
Yeah, I like this team a lot. I love Lady.
Yes,
I love
know
Lady.
You love Lady. Number 9, I love Lady.
I love that. Shall we move on to players?
And that'll do it for our ranked teams. Obviously, as we were saying, one of the deepest regions in the state. But on to players to watch as we fly through this with my 1 o'clock meeting very quickly approaching.
I have like 20 million players. This is the week that you want to rush me on players to watch because I have like 10 that talk
Take it
about.
up with my boss.
Well, this is more important.
I agree.
Okay, well then I'm going to take my sweet time. I'm just kidding. All right, starting off strong. It's Tyler 2027, wide receiver Trey Harrelson. And if you ask me, this dude is one of my favorite players in the entire state.
DNA is unwell in there. It's a really long.
That's why I'm trying to go fast, but you guys keep distracting me. Tyler 2027, wide receiver Trey Harrelson. I got to see him at the Arlington SQT this year, and he was actually named to the DCTF State 7-on-7 State DCTF 7-on-7 all-state team. That's what it is. There's a lot of states in there. But I think this dude is a rising star in the class of 2027. Great build, 6'1", 180 pounds as a sophomore. He's a deep threat playmaker with great hands. He's physical and can catch in traffic. Just the ideal guy that you want to see in your star receiver there. The thing about him, though, is that he is stuck in such a competitive wide receiver class because you've got Booby Feaster at DeSoto, you have Tay Ellis at Crowley, and then Trenton Yancey, who was formerly at Arlington Lamar but now transferred to Duncanville. It's hard to get lost in the sauce there, right?
Absolutely.
You've got a ton of talent, but this dude is a player to watch. He's a rising star. I freaking love him. Moving on to Texarkana, Texas High, 2026 running back Tredarian Ball. Speed, and more speed is the name of the game for this guy. We kind of already hinted at him a little bit, but he is an explosive player, a beast in the backfield with his breakaway speed and ability to catch passes too. Dude is just all around impressive. He had 3 touchdowns, 2 on the ground, 1 in the air last week against their win against Argyle Liberty Christian. That's why, because we were talking about that. Which is not a pushover team, I don't think. He's committed to Oregon alongside DeCorian Moore, which everybody's familiar with.
Yep.
Really, really fun dude to watch. I saw one. I was going to ask to play a highlight of him, but I ran out of time. But this dude, like, he had this insane spin move last week, and then he hurdled a player. Like, look it up. He's fantastic.
He hit the B button.
He did.
This next guy, I can't believe he's still here. It feels like the Pleasant
correct.
Groves will never run out of Jacksons. Now, this is the younger brother.
Correct.
But still, he started as a sophomore.
Quarterback's worst nightmare. Yeah. The speed and the agility of this guy, and
Huge frame.
just the way and the quickness that he gets into the backfield, an absolute quarterback's worst nightmare. He's committed to play at Texas, and he's got a couple of snaps in, I think, at tight end as well. He had 7 receiving touchdowns last year, but I imagine that he's focusing on the other side of the ball because
this is Pleasant Grove defensive end Lance Jackson.
Oh,
by
yeah,
the way,
Lance
since
Jackson.
We haven't said his name.
Sorry. Yeah, you set me up for that, and I'm trying to go quickly. Okay, you wanted me to go
I also
fast.
love that Mallory's like, I'll say like one thing about him, and then goes off this like.
Well, I just get so excited. I watch the tape, and I'm like, this dude is awesome.
She can't help herself. A recruiting fiend in this one.
I can't. Moving right along, I'm going to group these two together because
Combo.
you have to. You can't talk about one without talking about the other. Tyler Chapel Hill, 2025 running back Ricky Stewart, and 2025 quarterback Demetrius Brisbane, the dynamic Beast Texas duo. Both were committed to SMU at one point. Demetrius Brisbane flipped to Baylor, and Ricky Stewart flipped to Texas. Both started on as freshmen on varsity. Both just dynamic playmakers. I mean, and when you think of Beast Texas, when you think of obviously Tyler Chapel Hill, you think of these two guys, and this is their last year. They're seniors. If it's not this year for Tyler Chapel Hill,
I don't know when it is.
When it is.
And that was the thing, is like, that's why it was so shocking that Anna 21 to blinked him, because it was like, how in the world has no one found a way to stop these two, and then suddenly they had the secret sauce to keeping them scoreless. That's another reason why it's like, there's the revenge tour.
I think so too. Stewart, super fast, obviously, has great open field acceleration, really fun to watch. Brisbane, a guy that can make plays on his feet and with his arm as well, but I think he's honestly more dangerous with his feet. But both really fun to watch. If you haven't watched a Tyler Chapel Hill game, I suggest you do that, because that's a dynamic duo you do not want to miss. Moving on down to Brownsboro 2025 cornerback, Micah Strickland. High football IQ, I think, with just the ability to play in all three phases of the game. I know he did it last year. I'm not sure if he's done that this year, but you don't want to be matched up with him, because he will wreak havoc on you all night. Committed to play at TCU, which kind of feeds into this next guy, Kilgore 2025 safety Jaden Sanders, who is kind of similar to Micah Strickland in the way that they play in all three phases of the game. Jaden Sanders, one of the top playmakers in the state, obviously. 697 receiving yards, 7 touchdowns, 35 tackles, 3 interceptions last season. He's just a dude all around. Leads a defense that really gelled last season and is only going to become better this year. And he's committed to play at the University of Michigan. Moving on.
I think her mic got real low there for a second. I don't know what dials were turning over there. He's committed to play at the University of Michigan.
I didn't.
Who's that?
I didn't touch nothing.
Y'all 1-1. Just want to say that. Anyway, moving down to Carthage 2026 running back KJ Edwards, a total ball dog, a leader for this Carthage offense. He broke out as a sophomore, ran for 1,700 yards and 24 touchdowns. This dude, 10 yards per carry. Averaging 10 yards a carry.
I have the YouTube stream pulled up and it's a little bit delayed, and I just went back and got to see your face as you went, yeah, 1-1. That was gold. I need a screenshot of that.
Anyways, KJ Edwards, the real dude at Carthage here. He's got the speed and the ability to cut and change direction on the fly. He's got offers from all the big programs like Ole Miss, Georgia, Michigan, Texas. Love watching him in Scott Surratt's offense. Moving on with Mount Enterprise 2026 running back Keegan Ash. Did you know that Mount Enterprise runs the slot T? And they run it really, really well with the dynamic 1-2 punch in Keegan Ash and Tracy Thompson in the backfield. Almost 3,000 yards on the ground and 38 touchdowns for this dude.
You never know which way they're going, but you know one of the two of them have
it
the
hurts
ball.
my head. I was watching his film and I was like, this is just such a hard offense to I am confusion. It's really, really hard to watch. But this dude, 346 yards, 6 touchdowns in last week's win over Alba Golden, which is really kind of, I was looking at this team, I was like, I feel like they're kind of a dark horse in that area because they went 5-5 last season, but they're kind of on the come up. They're 2-0 right now, and with this dynamic 1-2 punch duo, they could be a team to watch in this year. And to round it all out, I've mentioned him earlier, Timpson 2025 running back JJ Gardner, and this like we mentioned earlier, we were going to see if he could step up and take the place of generational talent Terry Bussey. The answer is yes. Yeah. The answer is yes. 600 yards and 8 touchdowns through 2 games this season. Yeah. He is an unbelievable, unstopping machine.
Now, obviously, let's clear up the fact that it was better having Terry Bussey and JJ Garner on the same team.
Absolutely.
So it's
absolutely.
Like, yeah, it's hard to put all of that pressure onto one kid when he, if you go back and look at his stats from last year, was incredible even with a superstar like Bussey next to him. But it definitely isn't the drop off that people assume that it would be.
No, not at all. He's a really, really fun player to walk. He's got the speed. He's got the breakaway speed. He's just a big time threat to any defense that he faces. And he's got looks, of course, from programs like Texas Tech, Oregon State, UTSA, North Texas. Timpson ain't going away. They're staying. They're here for this. They're here for the long haul.
So there you go, our players to watch. We've got one more thing left to do. The meeting can wait because this genuinely is as important as anything we ever do on this program, and that is stonks.
Stonks.
Always try your hand of stonks.
Stonks. This is why we should never have been allowed to get a show together. This is what you can expect.
It's
All right.
1 hour of nonsense.
Mallory, for your stonks on week 3 of Texas high school football, will East Texas and Piney Woods have a state championship team? So you can choose from one or the other. We're going to combine the two. Will they have a state championship team at the end of the season as they did last year? The last year's champions, Malakoff, Gilmer, Timpson. Go.
Yes.
Stonks up.
Stonks up.
Okay.
In that regard. I'm not sure about Gilmer. I'm confident in Carthage. I'm confident that Carthage can get back there. And I'm also confident in Timpson that they can get back there too. So Timpson and Carthage, I'm pulling for the Piney Woods. And then Malakoff for East Texas. Yeah. That is probably the easiest one out of all of them to kind of declare and say they're not going away. Just because of how stout they are on the offense and defensive side of the ball. All the returners that they have. Mike Jones. Who? At quarterback. This is a Malakoff team that's rolling right now, and I don't think anyone's going to slow them down. So I'm going Malakoff, and then I'll go Carthage for the Piney Woods.
Yeah, those would have been my two, too. The Malakoff was the big stickler one for me because they're sitting there pretty in Region 2. Usually, typically, I was at the game last year, you get to Grandview Malakoff. I don't think Grandview is the same Grandview that we saw during that like Dane Yinch type era and when Grandview really had Malakoff's number for a long time. Those tables flipped last year. Mike Jones was incredible in that game. It was a regional semifinal game. It was Thanksgiving weekend. My dad and I were there. It was a blast. I think that Malakoff team is just as good as they were last year. I think that it will be interesting to see if a team like Texarkana Liberty Ilu, who we mentioned in the rankings earlier, they're out of Region 2. So usually it's like, okay, it's Grandview, Malakoff, maybe a Mount Vernon, and then you can ride the rest of them off. This year, I think those power dynamics have switched, but there's still a little bit. Then you look in Region 1, and Bushland has looked pretty impressive so far. Maybe a team like, oh, goodness. That might be it. Jim Ned, possibly.
Yeah, Jim Ned's just that weird team that is typically good in the past, but it's like, what are they now?
Right. So I think that a team like Bushland could be the team out of Region 1 that really kind of steps up. Maybe a Sweetwater if you want to go that far. But all of that being said, even Peaster, I think, is doing fairly well.
I agree.
But you look at that and you go, okay, usually our eyes go to Region 2 on the left side of the bracket. I think Region 2 is not as strong as it has been in years past. So if they can make it through their region, then all you're counting on is to at least get back to the state championship is that state semifinal game.
Yeah, I completely agree. I just remember watching the Malakoff Brock game last year, and I was like, if these dudes can take care of Brock, and they're returning all their players, like I said, they're not going away.
And they're excited that Brock is not a worry for them this year as they move up in classification.
They're in
so there you go. We couldn't finish the show without stonks. Stonks up on East Texas. That one shouldn't be too surprising.
No. Stonks up on East Texas teams and East Texas talent. That was a Greg Powers.
That's it.
That was a Greg Powers thing.
Cutting off her microphone as we round out the 74th episode of Women Talking Football. Massive 75th episode coming up next week. What are we doing? I don't know yet. But we'll all find out together. Join us again Wednesday at noon. We are excited to have you on WTF. And then, of course, Dave Campbell's Texas Football tonight, this Friday, 7:30. We'll see you there.